My mother-in-law cut up my wedding dress. I hate her so much, I don't know how to move on. This might sound petty or like something I should just move on from, but I just can't. My mother-in-law was always kind of off to me. I wouldn't say we had a bad relationship, but she wasn't very welcoming or interested. When I got engaged, she didn't seem happy for us. I didn't include her in wedding planning much because we weren't close. Mother-in-law's mom asked me to, so I included her in one thing, and she didn't speak the whole time. I stored my dress at their house. Father-in-law said it was okay. Then I got the call a couple of days before the wedding that she had cut the dress into a million pieces. I literally felt like I was going to throw up. In my mind, no one could be that evil and the dress was fixable, so we went over there, and no, she legit cut it into a million pieces. I really think if my husband didn't hold me back, I would have fought her. We still got married, but I had to wear a cheap replacement and I couldn't stop crying the entire morning, so it was ruined for me. Mother-in-law said she did it because she didn't get a wedding and because she never got her turn and nothing was ever about her. She didn't seem to feel bad. She seemed kind of in shock she had done it, but no remorse. Trigger warning, the day after she did it, she attempted suicide and was brought to the hospital. She got 30 days inpatient, and I don't know the details, but her dad was arrested because of something she said. Father-in-law was also taken in for questioning but released, and she filed for divorce the day she got out. Mother-in-law and I are pretty much no contact, but I occasionally see her at family events. She apologized once but didn't seem sorry, and when my husband said he didn't want to talk to her, she didn't seem to care. She no longer talks to my husband or her daughter, but like I said, we see her occasionally, and I've heard she was in intense therapy for about a year. She just got engaged and the ring is huge and gorgeous, the guy seems perfect, and I am just so overwhelmed by how much I hate her and how angry I am. People keep saying it wasn't her fault, she was sick, but I'm at the point where I don't even care. Update. I was shocked by how much the last post blew up and how much empathy I got. I thought a lot more people would say suck it up, it was only a dress. Truly thank you, and I am looking into booking a therapy appointment to talk about how much anger I have over this. A couple people pointed out that if I wanted to know why mother-in-law's dad had been arrested, I could look it up online. I wasn't aware of how easy it was to find that stuff, so my husband and I discussed it and we both wanted peace of mind. I looked it up and it was not what I was expecting at all. I'm not going to go into too many details, because if someone recognizes this, it is not my story to tell, it is mother-in-law's, but pretty much she was forced and potentially sold into marrying father-in-law. We both immediately felt sick because we let father-in-law and mother-in-law's mom around our toddler son. We are still close to father-in-law and our son adores him. I really felt like for my son's sake I needed clarity. I asked the cousin mother-in-law was close to if she could convey to mother-in-law that we had some questions and wanted to talk. I mentioned that I tried looking her up on social media and couldn't find her. The cousin told me it is because mother-in-law took her new husband's name, which I didn't know they were married, and her cousin started talking about how beautiful the wedding was. I had originally heard they were going to elope, but she said that was because mother-in-law thought it was tacky to have a wedding past 30, but he convinced her she should have that wedding she always wanted. It really did feel like a punch to the gut, and I know I have a lack of willpower, but when the cousin brought out her phone, I didn't stop her. I vowed it would be the last picture of her I ever looked at, and then seeing her in her white dress just really hit me that it isn't fair. I don't know what I expected. She modeled for a long time. She works in high-end fashion, but the wedding pictures were gorgeous and it really pissed me off. Anyway, the cousin let me use her phone. I told mother-in-law what was going on and that I needed clarity, and to know exact details of who was safe around my son. Mother-in-law agreed to meet up. I felt my heart sink, but I thought maybe I would get closure. We met at a coffee place. They were already there when we walked in, and the first thing out of mother-in-law's mouth was that she still wants to be no contact, and she just wants to be abundantly clear that there will not be a relationship. Fine, we didn't want one either. Mother-in-law answered my questions. It was really hard, but mother-in-law and father-in-law can't see our son anymore. They just can't. I don't think they are safe people, and mother-in-law provided evidence for the stuff she was saying, which honestly made me sad for her because I never doubted. Mother-in-law then brought up the wedding dress on her own. She said she snapped because it was another thing she was forced to pay for, and she was tired of working so hard so everyone else could have things she couldn't. She felt that we watched and aided in her abuse, which I don't think is fair because there were a lot of red flags, but a lot of stuff we didn't know about. Pretty much all of this abuse was a way to keep her under control so her parents and father-in-law could take her money, and mother-in-law did not want to pay for the things she did for her kids, such as weddings, cars, and a house for sister-in-law. She brought up that she never got her turn because she was drugged and sedated when she married father-in-law. She never got to do stuff like proms or birthday parties because of modeling, and she said cutting the dress was cathartic. My husband pretty much told her to shut up because he knew it was upsetting me. Mother-in-law's husband pointed out that we pulled up in a car she bought and said we are both pieces of shit for still driving it. Mother-in-law was quiet for a little while and just put her head down on him. It was super awkward and I wanted to leave. Finally, her husband said that it is kind of funny because everyone got what they deserve. She finally got her wedding, and I know he was implying we got what we deserve. He asked if she wanted to go. She said yes and walked out without saying goodbye to my husband. On one hand, I understand that mother-in-law did not agree to have him and views him as something she was forced to do, so her parents could control her money, but it makes me mad that she acts like he was a partner in this crime. We are going to have to cut a lot of people out. There are a lot of details I didn't share and they just aren't safe people. What happened to mother-in-law is like something out of a horror movie. They all know but gaslit her for years. Honestly, I wish her the best in the sense that she deserves a life. And I know a lot of people are skeptical about the new husband, but he seemed very sincere. I wish her the best in life, but I'm pissed she got the wedding after she ruined mine. I told the cousin that I do not want any more updates, and for my mental health I will no longer attend events she is at. Now let's see what the community has to say. Opinion number 1 says, she was trafficked. I honestly don't find your situation to be very sympathetic. I was totally on your side with the last post, but there was a lot you didn't know and a lot you left out. You couldn't pay for anything and the woman who was sex trafficked snapped. Maybe get some fucking perspective. I think you're making a situation that's much bigger than you to be all about how you've been supposedly wrong. Except I don't feel that bad for you. And it sounds like you did enable this even if you didn't know about every single part. You're entitled. She was assaulted, trafficked, made to pay for your things. You lost a dress you didn't even pay for. You're driving the car she bought you. How old are you? Are you a victim of child marriage or can you legally work? I'd be giving things back, but I guess you can't afford to not live off of the sex trafficking victim. If this is real, I don't know how you can feel okay with how you've behaved. You are being a child. You barely even touch how your husband is feeling with all this. But honestly, he doesn't seem that bothered, so maybe he's a bit like his dad, and you don't have much to talk about there. I'm so mad the sex trafficking victim got her consensual wedding. She's a model and I'm mad she looks pretty. Maybe you aren't old enough to work, in which case I take some of this back. Grow up. Your husband telling her to shut up is disgusting. Why can't you do your dream ceremony? Is she supposed to pay for it? You're too good for her but not too good for all her stuff. You and your husband seem like awful, awful people. Good for her for leaving you two behind. Says a lot you'd want to go down the aisle in a dress from rape money and then whine about not getting it. A normal human being would have been glad to not wear that dress. You should probably, get a job or something. I'm honestly happy your wedding was shit. It's not justice, but it's getting there. Opinion number 2 says, she was literally a victim of human trafficking. I'm not saying it was fair of her to ruin the wedding dress, especially because you guys didn't know she was a victim of trafficking. However, I do understand why she did it. She was forced to raise her rapist children. She was forced to give up all of her money to people she didn't like and didn't want to be around. She was forced to do so much and she had just had it. She paid for the wedding dress and it was just a reminder of all the things that have happened to her. She shouldn't have done it, but I think these comments aren't fair to her. Opinion number 3 says, what I just read was that OP and her husband are driving around in a vehicle that mother-in-law was forced to buy for them. This is not something that they observed as children. Mother-in-law wants nothing to do with her children because they were willing to let horrible things continue to happen to her as long as they received financial benefits from it as well. Not when they were children, but as adults in the form of cash presents, vehicles, and a home for sister-in-law. Mother-in-law doesn't seem like she was even pretending that she wanted to do these things. And obviously her adult son feels comfortable in telling her to shut up when she dares to object to others' mistreatment of her. This update paints Opus's husband in a completely different light. And really, if someone is telling me about how they were drugged and forced into sex slavery, especially a family member, and my reaction is jealousy over her wedding pictures, that speaks a lot about me as well. If I'm OP's husband and I really didn't know what was going on, and I find out that my own mother was drugged and forced to marry my father, held captive, raped, financially abused almost her entire life. The more that I type, the less I can actually believe OP and her husband are serious. OP, you can get another wedding dress made. You can have another wedding. You can recreate a beautiful new memory of one moment of your life. Your husband's mother had almost her entire life stolen from her and she can never get that back. I think you better have some deep conversations with your husband and do a little bit more digging as to how much he knew or didn't know about the situation. Because I don't know that I would feel comfortable being married to a man that was willing to keep silent and be implicit in his own mother's abuse because it financially benefit him. I hope he truly was completely ignorant of the situation, but having grown up in a house with family that was abusive but not anywhere near as abusive as this family, the chances of that are low. Yes, you grow up as a child thinking it's normal, but after a certain amount of time in the real world as an adult, you start to realize that it isn't. Then you have to make really uncomfortable choices. Based on mother-in-law's reactions, I have a feeling her children didn't make the right choice. How about you guys? What do you guys think about this whole situation, and what would your advice be for OP? Let's all discuss in the comments section below. Family boycotted my sister's wedding because she wouldn't let my daughter be a flower girl at her wedding. So I, a 28-year-old female, have a sister, a 26-year-old female, who got married last month. I'm gonna be blunt. My sister has always been one of those people that has to have everything perfect, to the point sometimes it was hard to be around her. But she was my little sister and I have no other siblings, so I always made excuses when she'd hurt me when I was doing things right in her eyes. I was kinda nervous when she asked me and my daughter to be a bridesmaid in February because I knew she was gonna be a massive bridezilla. Over the last few months, we have had to practice multiple dances, pay for very expensive dresses, and put up with her tantrums. I told her from the start if she was in any way nasty to my child, I wouldn't stand for it. She assured me she'd never be nasty towards her favorite person in the whole world. Well, her now husband's little cousin started coming to dance practice with her mom, and my sister started to ask her to do little things like showing my daughter how to throw the petals. I honestly thought she'd make them both flower girls for a while, but when she started to make my daughter sit out and have the little girl do her poem, I knew what was gonna happen, but prayed I was wrong. I invited her out to coffee a few weeks before the wedding and asked her what was going on. She told me she was glad I brought it up because she was looking for the right time. Apparently, my 4-year-old wasn't doing everything right, and she was afraid she was gonna mess up her version by saying the wrong thing or not doing the dance right on the day. I told her she's doing a pretty good job and everyone was always praising her. Sister giggled and said it's not their day now, is it? So it's not up to us what's good enough for her wedding. I asked her straight up if she thought her niece wasn't good enough to be in her wedding. She replied with not as something big as a flower girl but to attend. I asked her how I was gonna break it to my daughter who's excited about being in the wedding. She just told me to figure it out. I told her I'd give her a day to rethink her decision, if not we wouldn't be attending and speaking to her ever again before I left. 2 days passed. I couldn't put it off any longer, so I broke the news to my child. Even though I tried my hardest and sugarcoated it as much as possible, the news still broke her heart. She cried herself to sleep. Well, after a week when I was a no-show for anything, my sister started to panic and started to get everyone to talk to me, even drop off gifts for my daughter. When I told them why, a good number of our family, including the bridesmaids, dropped out. We ended up going for a few weeks away with no phones. When we came back, my sister had sent me multiple letters and emails apologizing. Her in-laws and husband have called me an asshole for doing what I did. Edit, my brother-in-law saw this post and told my sister, who cried reading all your comments. How do I know? Because they showed up at my job knowing I wouldn't want a scene. They begged me to delete the post before people they know see it and kept apologizing. Finally, my sister said she might be pregnant. I told even if she is, pregnancy doesn't wash away all the shitty things she's done, and I hope her husband's siblings never treats her child the way she treated mine because I don't plan to be a part of her life. She burst into tears, saying she was sorry and that she loves my daughter. I told her to leave before I called security, and her husband tried to talk to me alone because I was making her so upset and everyone was cold towards them because of me. I told them no, everyone was cold because Cinderella and Prince Charming forgot that after treating everyone like shit that no one wanted to be in their happy ever after. They didn't like my mocking tone and raised their voice at me. My boss, who knows the situation and has a 5-year-old herself, told them to leave, so she's on my side. My sister's MIL reached out to my parents asking for everyone to meet up on neutral terms so we can all work out our differences. I'm gonna go to this dinner party because I want to hear their story and officially tell them to leave me alone. I will update you guys. Update. My sister's photographer saw this post and reached out to me on here. This goes deeper than my daughter not dancing right. Apparently, she overheard my sister's mother-in-law and aunt-in-law talking in the bathroom. They used slurs against my daughter and husband. They called me the black man's whore. The photographer said they were both drunk, but Bill also made jokes around my sister earlier in the day, which she smiled at. She also thinks my family members heard it and it's the reason they dropped out. So yeah, my daughter wasn't flower girl because unlike me, her aunt or the other flower girl, she doesn't have blue eyes and blonde hair. If you're reading this, Sarah and Frank, fuck you and your family. My child is too good to be around trash like you both. Stay the fuck away from us, and if anyone in my family knew the real story and didn't tell me, fuck you too. Edit 4. Thanks everyone for the love and support, but especially thank you to the photographer who came forward. Thank you so much for bringing this to my attention before I let them back into our lives. You're real one. Edit 5. So I thought I'd answer a lot of questions that keep getting asked because I'm tired and will be going to bed soon. My parents are fully on my side, so are multiple other family members that haven't been cut off. My daughter doesn't know the full story, but as treat we plan to take her to Disneyland for Christmas, and my parents have said they will join us. As for my sister, some people have mentioned she might be in an abusive relationship. Well, her husband is from old money and his family is very well connected in England, which is something she always wanted, so I don't know, but if she is in a bad relationship and afraid, it's up to my husband to forgive her, not me. You can post this wherever you like. Please don't message me again, and I will not give up the photographer's information because she wants to stay anonymous. I found out 3 family members knew, including a bridesmaid that dropped out knew. I've seen a lot of people making fun of the fact. Me and my husband cried ourselves to sleep the night my daughter found out. We didn't cry about her not being a flower, nor did we cry while she was awake. We cried because our child was extremely hurt, and there's no feeling worse than your child thinking they're not good enough for someone they love. For the commenter who was extremely nasty about my husband crying, a father's love is equal to a mother's. Men do and are allowed to have emotions, and do better. Now let's see what the community has to say. Opinion number 1 says, NTA for the people saying OP is the jerk, consider. OP was expected to bring the child to the celebration after being told she was no longer going to be the flower girl. Yo, she gets to watch another child do the thing she was so excited to do and not make a fuss. Get a babysitter. Great. Watch her parents get fancy and leave to go to a celebration she is no longer a part of. Opus's choice to not go to the wedding was correct. Her immediate family is more important than her sister. Opus did not tell other people to not go to the wedding. She told them what happened when they asked. Everyone made their own decision. I am sure this was not the only crappy thing the bride was doing. Opinion number 2 says, MTO, your sister asked a 4-year-old. A 4-year-old. Then expected perfection. It's laughable. Yes, it's her wedding, but to ask a 4-year-old to be a flower girl and go through everything when in the end she's shocked a 4-year-old doesn't live up to her idea of perfection is just a moronic thing. Your family asked why you weren't attending and you told them. You didn't ask them to boycott. They made their decision. Your sister sounds like a nightmare and crappy person. Personally, I think it's cute when little kids go off script during weddings. Opinion number 3 says, NTA. But your sister is, I don't know why there is this pervasive weddings mean I am the princess and can be unkind to whomever I want attitude, but it's getting ridiculous. To be clear, I get that weddings are special and stressful. I also know that there are tons of horror stories about couples getting their feelings and boundaries legit stomped on, but that is not what happened here. Take your daughter for a special spa day or other treat and keep being the awesome mama that you are. Sending positive vibes. How about you guys? What do you guys think about this whole situation, and what would your advice be for OP? Let's all discuss in the comments section below.